the lid comes down on their heads. They have to use periscopes to see where they're going, and it is more difficult. Those course of dance like say so. And that's one reason why you find tanks fitted with that optional feature. But normally a driver will have his head out when he can. Circuit now in centre of the I2 centre and around it comes to 14 reasons to charge to make sure everyone sees the tank, especially when they get hidden behind the table top and they've got to all the wrong side. Interesting that the Panzer 61 uses a lot of casting, both for the hull and the turret. Casting armour was very popular after the war. The difficulty is that it's very tricky to control the thickness of the armour in all plates. That's why welded armour is more popular in many cases, because you can elect to have thicker or thinner armour on different surfaces, which you can't have on a cast turret like that. Not so easily anyway without grinding tons of it away after.
There's no finessing with it, it's just as it comes out the bolt, bang on the tank and out it goes, it's just massive pieces.
As usual, they kick up a load of dust as they go around, especially when they're cornering. Steering any tank is difficult. It's usually done by a geared process, but it does mean that one track has to slow down while the other one speeds up in order to get around the corner at all. And that can be quite difficult. It puts a tremendous amount of strain on the track and suspension, and really needs a bit of careful control. If you do it in the wrong conditions, you can rip the track off if you're not careful. There they go. Someone has helped me title this section odds and sods, because it's a bit of an odd collection of tanks. The first one is a Swiss tank, the Panzer 61. Now the Swiss were a nice peaceful lot, as we know, had the problem that they never knew which side was going to attack them. So they had to build tanks that would fit to all their railway tunnels, and that explains the odd shape of the hull and turret of this tank. It's fitted with a British 105mm gun, and just like the British tanks, has the transmission and everything, the engine and transmission at the rear, an MTU engine. And then the suspension's interesting. It used, instead of coil springs, it used a series of Belleville washers stacked on cubes. It had the same effect as coil springs, but it meant that if you broke one, you only had to replace a bit of it. The tank never saw any action. They were only ever used for training and that sort of thing, but it's still an interesting tank and one that differs from what everybody else has produced. And we were lucky enough to get one a few years ago and put it on show. So it's quite a find. And you won't see many Panzer 61s in circulation outside Switzerland at the moment. None other thing you'll notice if you look at the tank closely are those little bulges sticking out the sides of the turret. They're usually indicative of a cross-turret rangefinder, which was a coincidence rangefinder that you could use to estimate the range of a target. You don't see them on British tanks. We tend to use lasers for the same purpose. But a lot of the German tanks and some French tanks also had them. And they were a very effective means of establishing range. And of course range establishment is quite important. A lot of the training done for tank crews is estimating range of the target. Now the next vehicle coming on is Swedish rather than Swiss, and it's the IKV-91. It looks like a tank to you and me, but it's actually a tank destroyer. And a tank destroyer generally is a lightly armoured vehicle, but fitted with a fairly powerful gun. And the IKV-91, it's got 2 or 3 interesting features. It's fully amphibious, and those 2 things poking up behind the turret are Lyrian smoke or star shell mortars, which you would fire to illuminate your target. It's a very low profile vehicle, quite fast and quite manoeuvrable, but not very well armoured, so you wouldn't want to get caught in a thing like that with enemy tanks about it. It was very good at destroying them, but it had to keep a low profile to avoid being destroyed itself. Get some idea of the sort of potential. They can't really race it here because the circuit's too tight. But you can tell when there's latent power there. The IKV-91's got that to help it on its way. It's also got a...
the whole thing sort of rocked under suspension to form the elevation of the gun belt. They've got one inside.